9016 Radio.
The show for artists of all kinds.
Sit down, relax, enjoy the music.
Okay, man, your turn.
Cool. Happy? Comfortable?
Yeah, mate.
Thanks for coming in.
Hey, that's okay. Are we recording?
Yeah, we're away.
Wow, look at that.
How have you been? You've been well. We were talking before. You said you're doing really good. Everything's sort of...
Yeah, I turned 25 this week.
Ooh, nasty.
Yeah.
I was same about 3 months ago now. Yeah. How's that feel for you?
It's scary, to be honest. Like 22, 23, 24, awesome, exciting.
Yeah.
This is great. I'm growing up. You know, I feel good. 25 comes around and bang, like, here's life.
Yeah.
They've dished it up to you. You've got 5 years until you're 30. You know, at what point do you have to be, you know, in your life? Are you comparing yourself to other people? Are you on the right track? Are you not? But it's all those anxieties going through your head. But yeah, man, 25.
Yeah, I feel you. And it's funny because it is, you know, it's corny to say, you know, that age is just a number.
Yeah.
But it is really, because I don't really feel like a 25-year-old. Like, I feel like I'm still somewhat of a teenager until I get sort of, even I think in my late 20s, I'm still going to feel like pretty young, and still am pretty young. But you do start getting those thoughts of, okay, where am I at in life? What are other 25-year-olds my age doing? I feel like in the sort of demographic that we've been a part of, you tend to sort of see a lot of the younger people sort of involved in what you're doing as well, through music and art and just gigs and things. There's a younger generation that you end up sort of around, and so you sort of feel like you're still on this wave, you know?
I don't think anything really changes too much.
No.
Because everyone's doing, you know, you're all doing it together. But like 30's the new 20.
Yeah, right.
You know, we're not that old and life's not that crazy. We don't have to be doing, you know, certain things. Like, we're not trying to get married at 22 or anything like that.
Some more.
Well,
most of
yeah,
us.
some people. I mean, can't judge. But yeah, I mean, life's like, I don't know, it feels like it's falling into place nicely. And I feel like I'm in a good position. But yeah, it is scary. Like, I feel like it's slipping through my fingers a wee bit, a little bit of a quarter life crisis maybe.
Yeah, sure. I think that's natural. I think that just sort of you start getting what feels like this sort of quarter life crisis because you sort of hit this age, like, well, mid-20s now. Like 25 is a number that you look at and go, okay, like, I'm on the sort of spectrum of the older.
Yeah, you're like, okay, this, like, you know, I've had my youth now.
Yeah, exactly. Like the teenage years are really gone now. Like,
and it just goes fast.
Yeah.
Like, every year, I know, like, everybody says that, but it's terrifying.
Yeah. It's scary looking at, like, old photos or just when certain songs came out at a time when you were a certain age, and you think, wow, that was like 7 or 8 years ago now that I was listening to this. Or, you know, me and my friend group at the time were all jumping around to this song, and that was like, what?
I just can't believe 2017 was 4 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, at Duke Street.
Yeah.
That was 4 years ago.
It's crazy.
Where has that time gone?
A scary thought. For me, like, the timeline is sort of, it still doesn't, at the point of, I guess, what we're saying is it doesn't feel like it was that long ago.
No.
For me, like, that was the flat I was living in before the flat that I'm in now. Mm-hmm. So the time that's elapsed between then and now, I've been in the same place.
Yeah.
So there hasn't been a lot of environmental change for me. So that time has really just sort of, like, those 3 years have just sort of felt like one whole year, so to speak. Like, I feel like the person that I am at this time, because, you know, when you sort of jump flats, it's sort of a new part of your life. You around different people in a different place. Yeah. So I feel like that time between then and now is quite short. So I really struggle with that too. Like, 2017, that's such a long time ago. Again, like, the music and stuff that was happening there.
Yeah.
Like it's weird to think that was that long ago.
Do you think by, you know, constantly shifting your environment every year, changing flats, doing that kind of thing, do you think that it helps or hinders your personality growth and your, you know, is it, I'm always in a flat with these people, these same friends, you know, we're shifting environments, or staying in one spot and giving yourself the opportunity to grow? I don't, you know, what do you think would be?
Yeah, I mean, I think you look at the general trend of what people do in their study years is typically jump between flats, and a lot of flats aren't available for longer than a year. You know, you sign the lease and then you're done. That was the case for that Duke Street one. So I feel like it's sort of inevitable that you do go through a multitude of flats in this time of our lives. And then there is a point where you go, it would be nice to have like a house of my own, or, a place that it is more mine as opposed to ours. And then I can sort of like change that thing to be what I want it to be.
Yeah.
I think it's important to have those changes when you're younger, because you see more perspectives, I suppose. And it depends how you're shifting. If you are moving into different homes with the same group of people every time, I mean, I suppose you're just building a better relationship with those people. But I wouldn't say it's necessarily a good thing or a bad thing, but there's definitely benefits that can come out of having that change of pace. Like I'm at a place now that I feel like I need to move from where I'm living, because I feel like my time there is done. I've never really felt that about a flat before. I've always been like, oh, like the year's over already. Like now I have to find somewhere else to live. And so like that sentimentality sort of happens quite quickly, where you just go, oh, I haven't taken the time to really sort of like, accept that I'm leaving the space. I'm just sort of out of it. Whereas this place is just sort of, it's really done its dash. Like I've been there enough and enjoyed it so much, and not really had to have ever thought about, whenever the landlord says, you're going to be with us next year? I'm like, yeah, so much easier to stay. If you're happy for me to be here, then I'll just stay here. But now I'm like, yeah, I think I need that change of pace, because I feel like, just in my case, that my life has sort of just ended up on this really routine. Like I feel like I've got to a point now where I'm really happy. Not everything that happens in my life is obviously like what I want to be doing, but in the general, like the time that I have to do the things that I want to do, and the places that I have and the people that I'm around, I'm pretty happy. But that routine thing is getting old now. Like I feel like I do need to do something. So for me personally, I feel like there's always going to come a point, no matter how long or short, where you will need change,
Yeah. Well, I mean, the reason I say that is because I have been in a position where I haven't necessarily needed to be in a flat,
Right.
I've been living at home, for so long, and maybe my perspective isn't the same as everyone else, and I feel like you lose that, maybe, losing that perspective of shifting environments and being independent enough to, to grow. But
I think that's obviously a huge part of flatting is independent.
Yeah.
Becoming independent, but that can also depend on like where you are and who you're with. You could have an incredibly social flat and sort of lose some independence because you're reliant on your time being spent with others, as opposed to a flat that you aren't so friendly or comfortable with those people, that you just find yourself being in your room more often than not. And also like living at home too, I find that ironically, living at home is the time that I want to be more social than anything. Like
that's right. Yeah.
The year that I spent at home, all I wanted to do was just leave the house and go and see people.
Yeah.
And now I live in a house with others. All I want to do is sit in my room and be by myself. So it's kind of like you don't know what you have until it's gone, I suppose, is the sort of thing. So that's a different way of growing too.
Yeah.
And where that happens for you at whatever age can also determine how you perform creatively. If that's something that you're doing, who you're around and what sort of environment you rely on will affect inevitably like what you create, I think too.
Yeah, well, I think being around or being in a flat with other creative people as well was definitely going to help you be creative yourself.
For sure.
Like sort of surrounding yourself with people that are being productive and making music and art and design and all of that kind of stuff. I think that really like breeds a culture of wanting to be successful in that kind of thing. And if you're on your own and you're not surrounded by that, then maybe you give yourself excuses, not to be doing those things.
Yeah, absolutely. That flat in particular, the Duke Street flat, that was immensely beneficial for my creativity. At the time, it was music. Doing obviously on quite a different path now, but the sort of the rawest example of what we're talking about here, I think, is me in that scenario, because what was happening was everyone else's sort of immediate idea when we moved in was like, right, this is the studio room. Yeah. And that wasn't like a concept that I was familiar with, to have like a room for creating things. So I thought, oh, but this is like a really nice lounge or like a really nice bedroom. I might want to like be in this bedroom. You're
giving up a bed.
Essentially, yeah. So I was kind of like, okay, whatever. I'm not going to, never going to say, no, don't have a studio room. So just let it happen. And that was like the best room in the house. And I had all my gear set up in there with the table and everything. And I've never I don't think I've ever like I could probably equate it to sort of my practice now with painting, but at that time that was sort of the most I'd ever worked on something creatively ever was in that room, and the joy about it was someone might have walked past at a time that I was making a beat that I was really happy with, and I could sort of turn and go like,
Yeah.
what do you think? Or someone will come in and like start bobbing their head. Like that's more gratifying than anything. That was huge.
That was pretty unique, I think. Having people just being able to come and egg you on and or tell you it was bad if it was bad.
Exactly.
And I think that I mean, it's pretty hard to replicate that sort of like just group mentality of we're all going to be creative, we're all going to do something. It doesn't matter what you're doing. We can all like sort of pitch in and help out, and that's what happened. I mean, we were all a part of something at least. And for myself, it was when I really started getting into mixing and I wanted to sort of be a part of the music, but like maybe on a more technological side, more focus on being able to allow everyone to do their work better. Maybe that's sort of what I hoped.
So that was the driving factor for you? Because that was a question I wanted to ask. Like we sort of started to lean more towards that aspect of music.
Well, I've always been interested in the idea of recording and mixing and that kind of thing. And I think that just comes from my brain being very analytical and logical and it's just, I don't know, I think I'm quite obsessed with workflow and technology and software and that kind of stuff, and it's just always been something that gives me comfort to know that like I can do something objectively right. By recording you can
there's a method to it.
There's a method,
sort of a
and there's a lot of creative ways to do things, but at the end of the day it's getting recorded in a certain way, and you can pat yourself on the back if it sounds good.
Sure.
You've done something right. And I think that's what I was craving a lot, was the objectivity of music, and I really struggle sometimes with songwriting or just playing an instrument or whatever, because, I don't always believe that what I'm doing is right.
Right.
Someone else can always do it better. But with recording and mixing and stuff, it was, something I could really something tangible for me.
Sure.
And I think that was really what I need, or still need, and what I needed back then too.
Yeah, I like that. And in that period of time that we're talking about, that Duke Street 2017 era, that was sort of your main focus at the time, if I'm not mistaken. That was pretty much what you were doing, if not exclusively. You've obviously started out with the music side of things, just in the performative. You had music and you were in bands prior to that time period. So was it through that? Was there sort of frustration in your music practice, like playing and singing and everything, that sort of made you turn onto the recording, mixing side of things, or was it that was always sort of what you wanted to get involved with from the get go?
Yeah, I think maybe it's a control thing, and I always just wanted to have a hand in what I was doing from start to finish. I didn't necessarily believe that I needed anyone else to come in and do something for me. It was just sort of that I can do everything, jack of all trades kind of mentality, I suppose. And that started from quite young, like about 12 or 13 or 14, just sort of making songs and recording them, and then sort of doing it for the bands that I was in. And so that was sort of my thing. Like I would be the guy that, maybe I did write the song, maybe I didn't, but the band would come to me and we'd all record it, and then I started doing it for other people, and that's an entirely different process, because you're not really necessarily creatively involved. You're just sort of doing the technical side for them, and that's a whole nother kettle of fish too, because if you've ever done client work before, like freelance kind of stuff, it's at what point do I give up my creative taste or creative abilities just to serve them? And so, you're dealing with two things there. You can get really creative recording yourself and making music, but you can also just sort of be, it's probably not the right word to use, but be a slave to the process and just sort of going through the motions and getting it done. But yeah, I think both sides of that coin is something that I quite enjoy doing, and it has spilt into my work today, and everything else that I'm doing.
I can totally understand where you're coming from with the, enhancing someone else's creation. You're working with something that they've made on their time, and to be able to sort of give that back to them and work on something that's special to them. I can understand how you go down that path. It's obviously something that's, doing something for others is always going to be something that's going to make you feel good, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Was that sort of how there was a point with doing that though, where did it kind of get stale for you, or like explain your sort of transition point back into music? Because the group you're in now, Waikapone, am I saying that right? Yeah. That sort of has come after that big stint of you doing that mixing mastering thing.
Yeah.
So was it you like find like what you were saying, like at what point do you become quote unquote the slave to that, and where does your creativity stop? Was that your chance or your outlet to sort of get that back?
Yeah, well, I think it's taken a lot of figuring out for me that I can be creative in both areas or all areas or whatever, and it's something that, so being in bands and then kind of transitioning full time to just being and mixing and recording, that was a way for me to just kind of take a break from being a creative lead or whatever that was in a band, and so I was like, okay, let's just step back. I'm not in charge of anything here. I'm just going to be the facilitator for other people's music. And then I think, at some point you do need that creative urge comes back, and you do want to be in a position where, you're making something, like songwriting. And I, in my personal life, I was in a position where I had a lot of motivation to sort of get feelings out of me. And that just came out in songwriting, and I ended up writing like a full album in not that long. And that was after sort of a big break of not writing at all. So that's sort of been my transition period is more of an emotional one than just, preference. But I've always got hands in both sides, both puddings, I suppose.
I suppose that's kind of inevitable. Yeah. It's all essentially in the same pool. Yeah. You're just sort of swimming on either end.
Yeah, and right now too is sort of, I feel like I'm at a transition point again where I want to go back into more mixing and recording, because I haven't really been doing it that much, and that's just how it works for me. I think, I'd prefer to be doing one, prefer to be doing the other, but like, I think the songwriting aspect is an emotional thing for me, and if I'm not necessarily at a time in my life where I'm crazy emotional, or I'm happy, maybe it's a good thing, but like there's not much reason for me to be songwriting. I've got nothing to write about really.
Sure.
And I find it hard too, because what do you write about? And then I think anxiety is a massive drive for me to get something out through the guitar or an instrument.
It puts your mind in a particular place. Yeah, it's interesting.
Well, it's a good outlet for me, I think, because I don't know, it just makes me happy, I suppose.
Yeah. And that's all that really has to be explained, right? That's sort of something I look at with my own work, is like, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
What does this mean? Like, what is this emotion bringing out from me? And a lot of the time there is no answer to that. It's just the fact that I like doing it, and that's really all that anyone should have to be saying about what they do, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like, I guess in your case, where you're making the music for your own, do you feel for yourself rather? Do you feel like you obviously, I presume you were sort of the lead guy for the mixing mastering side of all the music that you'd written for this album, which is presumably the Waikapone.
Yeah. It's Waikapone. Yeah.
So that involvement, doing your own mixing and mastering, is that quite different from doing others? Like, was that giving you the same sort of satisfaction working on your own work as opposed to working on someone else's project?
Yeah, I think you can allow yourself to, you start from start to finish, you've got a taste that you want to achieve. And sort of you already know what you want it to sound like before it even hits the computer. When I'm writing something, I sort of already know what I want the final product to be. So there's maybe that doesn't allow me to be that creative with mixing, but yeah, and so that does lend to when I'm doing other people's work, I'll go, well, I didn't have a hand in this, writing. How can I put my creative stamp on here, or how? And maybe it's just I prefer it to sound this way or that way, and that's like what I was saying before. At what point do you give that up for their taste? Because I say this to a lot of people, like, are they coming to you for just because you can do it, you're the guy that can mix, or are they coming to you because they want your input and they want your stamp on it? And yeah, that's kind of where you've got to balance. But yeah, I find it more creative doing other people's songs, like mixing other people's songs, than I do my own.
I suppose when you're doing your own stuff, like you say, you've already got the idea of what it sounds like. So I suppose a lot of your process in the recording sort of already has elements of the mixing, mastering involved. So there's not a lot left for you to do at the end. Is that correct?
Yeah. And I think, like, I'll just be like doing the whole process at once, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
In the songwriting. If I'm writing something, it'll be recorded, in which case I'll be already starting to mix it and already starting to like make it sound a certain way with effects or that kind of thing. So it all molds into one process. So
do you find that, like, if you're looking at someone else's project and looking at your own, you're talking about how you're approaching someone else's project with the creativity. So, the people are coming to you potentially because they want your input on something, or you're putting your own twist on things. Do you think that that's an important element for an artist to have someone else's perspective like that? And then with your own music, do you think that it would be beneficial to you at all to have someone else doing the mixing, mastering for you? Do you think that your sort of involvement in that area of music sort of overlaps what it could be?
Well, that's probably the hypocritical part, is because maybe I prefer to do someone else's song a certain way, but then I would never give up my own song to someone else. Like, that's terrifying to me,
sure.
Like, oh my God. But yeah, that's where you run into problems too, is because people have a certain sound in their head, when they've written it. And then when you get it and it doesn't sound like what they thought it was, then it doesn't work, And that's where like it sort of clashes a wee bit, but that's just all part of the process, and that's part of learning, and that's what I learned. And yeah, I think maybe I should get someone else to mix my music.
I guess it just depends how involved each of you are in that process, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you're sending something away,
Yeah.
that's sort of a lot scarier because you don't know what they're doing. They might take something too far that
Exactly.
didn't need to be taken that far. You really need to be in the room with that person, right?
Yeah.
Have
That would be the dream, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
To sort of be in a studio with someone and do it that way. And I guess that's what the role of a producer is. Someone to sort of hold your hand throughout the whole process, and sort of put just make it the whole thing creative and think of it in a different way. And I think perspective is pretty important for that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. I think it would be, I think typically, like, outside of any particulars of what we're talking about right now, I feel like just generally creatively, I think it's super important to have other people's input on what you're doing. But I imagine it's somewhat normal, I guess, for you to just immediately have an idea of what you want in your head and put that out and immediately sort of make that happen without any sort of input, because you already know what's happening. And I can imagine, like, myself, like, I've pretty much only ever had my own input when I'm doing what I'm doing, unless I've sort of asked for it specifically. So my work only gets to a point where I'm ticking the box at the end. No one else is saying, oh, why don't you do this there or this there? I don't have that because I'm the only person here at the place that I work, so I don't have that input. So it's hard for me to look at, or at least I wonder what, what's actually finished. or what could be taken further? Like, does it need to be taken further? Like, what makes a piece good work?
Well,
is it only my eye that matters? Should that be all that matters? Like, could it really be something better than what the original idea was through someone else's input? Or is that a point at which it doesn't become my work anymore because it's there's too many fingers in the pie, you know?
Yeah, it's hard because that's imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
You know, that's what's really hard for me about not doing something objectively, if that makes sense. So if it's music or design or whatever that is, I do really struggle with not, having a point where I know that it's correct, and having other people's input does allow me, that validates things being right and good. But you're right, like it's very hard to know if something's finished or good, and that's a big killer for me because a lot of the time things don't live up to my taste, and you get very angry with yourself when something isn't what you thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
You start creating something and you're all excited about it, and then turns out it's not that great, and then you just want to give up. And
especially when you're playing with something that is emotional, like this album that you're talking about, there was obviously a lot of feeling that went into that, so you can almost get lost in that notion itself that there's too many factors at play that could be affecting how you're thinking about what it is that you're doing, and because it's something that's so special or sentimental to you, if it doesn't come out right, then if it doesn't replicate the feeling that you're trying to put forward, then you're not going to have that. Well, I think thing to keep you going.
That was a point where I feel like I was at ultimate creativity because I was so close to, what I was outputting was so close to what I was feeling that it just felt right anyway.
Right.
And I think distancing yourself from that and sort of not being in touch with your emotions as closely, I think that is a reason why I don't believe what I'm doing a lot of the time. Because if I'm not, I just don't have a lot of, at the moment, like right now, I just don't have a lot of much to output. There's nothing really going on that I feel like I need to get out, and that kind of reflects what I'm trying to do at the moment creatively, and it's just sort of not really working.
Right. And so with this album, do you think that sort of was like almost a closure for you now at that period of time when you were feeling that sort of emotion? Because you're talking about now about not having a lot of idea about what to create because you don't really have a lot.
There's nothing burning in my belly,
So I mean, could you say that what you set out to accomplish initially is done, and there's sort of like that? Do you have that feeling of I completed that, that's done, that's ticked
exactly.
off?
It was I packaged it up, put a bow on it, some sellotape, it went.
So what do you think is going to be the method for you now in creating music? Like, is it just sort of more reflection?
Yeah.
Is that where you're stuck?
Well, that's the hard part, because do you have to be hurting to create? Do you have to have?
I love this
trauma?
Conversation.
Oh man, we watched the Alexander McQueen documentary recently, and you come out the other end of it, and you're like, this guy has issues, like serious issues, and that's the reason why he's so successful.
Right.
And you start thinking about all of the other creative geniuses, everyone that's a little bit crazy.
Yeah.
But they're the ones that like are successful because, I mean, it's just the conversation we were just having. Like they're so close to their emotions and they're hurting in some way and they're getting that out. So, when you're not feeling down and you're not, when you're sort of feeling neutral or whatever, then that's probably the hardest way to be creative.
I often feel like I'm doing something wrong with painting because I'm too happy with it. Everything's too okay with it,
Yeah.
And that's why people that will listen to this podcast know that I tend to analyze my work too much, I think, or at least I think that I do, or talk about it so much that I still don't really have an idea of what I'm doing. But I love this conversation because I do feel like a lot of what I have made, maybe not the right choice of words, but just sort of feels invalid because it's not coming from that place of trauma or emotion or sadness or something, which I feel like a lot of good art comes from. You know, it's hard because you obviously don't want to jeopardize that for the sake of making good art. Like obviously if your mental health is good, that's what, you know, we should all strive for.
Yeah.
But yeah, we romanticize this idea about having art and music and just creativity coming from something that, you know, you hear the story about like Alexander McQueen, you see that story and it's filmed in this way. I imagine it's very theatrical and it's very, you know, might make a story sound even worse than it actually is, just to sort of create that feeling. And then you start to go, oh, okay, like that's how you make good stuff. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and that's where imposter syndrome really sets in for me, especially, is, oh God, I am not like this. I'm not a real creative. I'm not a real artist. I'm not I'm not a creative person, or like I couldn't do that, or, you know, and I look at other people's work and I go like, they're just so much better, and they're so much like, they just think in a different way. But yeah, it's really hard because you do beat yourself up a lot. Well, I do. And I know a few of our friends do as well, definitely beat themselves up. But yeah, I think you've just got to let go of that idea and just vibe, man. That's pretty corny, isn't it?
I feel like, well, I mean,
just vibe.
Yeah, in a nutshell. Because yeah, if you constantly like think that you should be doing things another way, then, you know, what are you really setting out to do, I suppose. But like, and not to say that anyone that makes something from a place of happiness is not invalid, because that's obviously, you know, that's what we want. That's what we want, that kind of music. But yeah, I don't know. It's such a strange thing. I constantly think about it, and I sort of in turn end up making work that is more on that spectrum. Like it looks like it's from a place. You know, I remember handing out flyers for an exhibition that I had at Edger a couple of years ago, just little A4 ones to sort of put in some shops around town. And the picture that I'd chosen for the poster was just a very sort of sporadic one. I mean, those that are familiar with my work know what it would be like. But I gave it to one of these shop owners who will remain nameless. But it wasn't with any ill intent. But I took it I sort of had to shake my head a bit. I'd given it to him and he said, "Oh, there's something wrong with you, isn't there?"
Oh dear.
And I just immediately, I just kind of laughed.
Yeah.
And I was like, what am I supposed to do with that information? But at the same time, like,
that might have been a compliment.
Well, yeah, exactly. That's sort of where I was leaning. I was like, do I actually think of that in a positive way? Because like what I'm saying about this idea of like art coming from a darker place or a place of sadness, whatever, you know, that's almost what I want it to be perceived as. Yeah. Because I romanticize this idea, but that's not the truth of it.
Well, I think your imposter syndrome doesn't want you to believe that you are that person, or you're actually capable of that.
Yeah.
And you are. You know, you've just got to believe. But that's impossible. Like, I can say that a million times and never believe it.
Yeah.
You know?
It's hard to believe anything that you create for yourself, right? Like it's hard to. But that being said, it's pretty easy to create an image
exactly
for yourself.
That's what I was going to start talking about, because is that why people, you know, put on this facade and they become this different person because they know that they aren't that, you know, that they're not capable of being this this big artist or whatever. Yeah.
It's a form of escapism in a way.
It really is.
And when you see artists that prop up that sort of jump on this trend of music, like I just remember when Little Peep's music was quite popular, even before he passed away. Like that was what everyone was getting on, was this like this whole demographic of people that were, you know, oh, I was also emo when I was younger. I'm sort of this emo person now, so I can now jump on this trend. Yeah. And you know, you romanticize this idea about being this like sort of low life person, that not to say that that's what Lil Peep was, but just this general sort of aesthetic, you sort of like didn't have a good upbringing and, was lonely at school and didn't pay attention, got dropped out or whatever, that whole idea was romanticized because it's like being a badass sort of thing. And same in like hip hop music, like it's just this whole idea of being someone that, hasn't come from a good place and they're making good art, and people will just sort of embody this whole thing, whether something is true or not, or at least will sort of like emphasize one aspect of their life which perhaps didn't, not to invalidate anyone's story or anything, but you sort of wonder like that's really like traumatized you to this whole thing.
Exactly.
Like how
and that's when it can start to become a little bit toxic too, and there's specific genres of music that people will they'll definitely put on a stoic kind of facade, and I think that becomes quite harmful for people, because then they feel like they can't be their own person, they can't be like an emotional person. I'm sort of talking about, like, I feel like in hip hop mainly, not that I know a lot about hip hop, but seeing artists that come out and it's so stoic and it's so like tough and strong, and you've got to be this way, and then like, are these people like that when they're at their mum's house?
Exactly. Yeah.
And are they allowing themselves to feel like that, or are they, is it becoming toxic? And I think that it's just harmful for people to believe that these people are like these big strong figures.
Absolutely. And a lot of the younger demographic that are around those artists as well will also embody this whole thing. And I think the irony in all of it is that when you do sort of embody this personality of what we're talking about, it can almost have the effect where you do end up in that position, like especially when you're in a place of fame, when tons of people know who you are and people are talking about you online and there are pictures being posted of you without your discretion, there's this whole other, thing that's affecting that person's mental health.
Well, you have to play into it.
Yeah, exactly. Because when you're doing interviews and things,
exactly,
you pretty much have to become that person. And a lot of people will say that is, just for example, like this isn't completely true, but for this artist, so just for namesake, you might have Travis Scott. I forget his actual name, but anyway. Jack, something. Okay.
Yeah,
anyway,
it's like French.
Yeah, you
almost.
have the actual person.
Yeah,
and their birth given name, and you have the artist name.
Yeah.
And a lot of people will choose to just play that character. They will be that person when they're on stage and when they're being interviewed as that person. But then you still have other people. I've seen a lot of artists that openly talk about that's not who they are. Yeah. That's just the act that they play. And so I'm not saying it's a good or a bad thing, but it's just interesting how some people play that part of being a musician, whereas others will be that person, like their rap name or whatever is them now. And that's who they are everywhere.
It just sounds hard.
Yeah.
There's so much effort. And I think that's like the people that I love the most, I'm talking like celebrity type people, are the ones that are genuine, and that it's just them and their personality, and they really just aren't trying that hard to be something that they're not.
Yeah.
And I think that you can smell it on someone, if they're trying to be, they're trying to like put on a thing. And I think that like being genuine is something that everybody just needs to embrace.
Definitely. I find a lot of that sort of character building thing, that might be not the right phrase, but that this persona aspect of music can often be quite transparent in the music itself if you really start to analyze an artist's music, like especially if they're an artist that put out music quite consistently, and in large amounts, because like if someone's dropping albums or EPs every 6 months, there's more of them to sort of see and analyze. So there's been some artists that I've sort of listened to their music and sort of gone, this doesn't really feel genuine. Like how many stories of woes and things can you have in your life to put into all these different songs, and how much of this is actually true, how much of this is just a story you've sort of made up to create this idea around a topic or whatever event or whatever. And then I also start thinking maybe people are just making songs like that for someone that has had that they can relate to, you know, because that's why most people listen to music or listen to a certain type of music, because there are themes and ideas within a song or an album or just an artist in general that they can relate to, and that's all that people want. It's just to be able to go, oh, they feel this way too, you know, or like, wow, someone's explaining what I feel, like I feel validated in a way. So I think that's a huge thing. If you can accomplish that, that's cool. But then translating that back to someone that's not doing it authentically, then what's really happening? You know?
I see what you're saying about people that are just pumping out music. It just becomes work.
Yeah.
You know, they're just doing it because they have to, or, you know, they feel like they have to.
Or try and stay relevant.
Yeah, and like, I keep talking about John Mayer all the time, but I just feel like he's really just come around, you know. He's just really become something. And that's what I'm saying about he is just himself.
Yeah.
And he's so genuine and he's so just like upfront about everything, and he, you know who he is. He's not putting on, well, no, not anymore, but he's not putting on a character for everybody. It's just him. And that's what you buy into. And that's what I'm sort of relating back to that as well, is he took like, God, I don't even know how many years, probably 5 years to release this new album.
Oh, really?
That's just come out. And like it was just because, I don't know, it was the position he was in, it was personal life or whatever, but like he wasn't in any rush just to like put music out because he had to.
Right.
And I think that's, I think I idolize him a lot for that, is just, you know, he's just a genuine, personable guy. And creatively, it's just a story of his life, and he's not like trying to be someone he isn't. And
Well, that's probably the most relatable thing of all, is to look at a celebrity and go, oh, they're just a person, like they're just like me, you know, and they're doing this amazing
you
thing.
get so tired of just the whole celebrity like cover, like you know, you just look at a person, you're like, oh my God, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And like people that, like, they're just regular people, and they just believe that they're just these inflated like characters, and they know better, but that's just an ego thing, I suppose.
Yeah. So it depends when you blow up too.
Yeah.
Like if you're really young, like if you sort of have this idea that you are going to be rich and famous, and you do become that, you don't even are you really like a normal person? You know,
No.
you've your whole idea around what's valuable and what's important are based around being in the public eye.
Exactly.
Which isn't exactly normal.
If you're entirely driven by fame and money, then when you get that, you're just going to be like an asshole.
Yeah.
You know,
and
as opposed to someone who it sort of just like happens by accident, or they earned it. You know, then that's different. But yeah, I think, well, you know, who are we to say? Well, if I had $50 million in my pocket, in my bank account rather, and I drove a McLaren, and everybody knew my name, they stopped me down the street, would I be the same person I am now? I would probably feel a little bit less insecure, I guess. I guess I'd be validated all the time. But like, am I going to be happier with that? I don't know. Am I going to be more creative, more, you know, be able to do better work? Probably not. So, yeah.
It's interesting, eh?
Yeah.
It'd be really fascinating to know what actually happens there, you know?
Exactly. Because you never know.
The amount of money.
You could say that. You could be like, oh, I wouldn't be an asshole if I had, you know, $1 billion. But I don't know. What is it? Is it the personality, or is it the money?
Yeah. Money's a huge driving factor too, because, you know, depending again how long you've had this income or this amount of money on your lap, you know, you start to forget if you've been in it for so long. You just, well, this is obviously not speaking from experience, but I can imagine that like you get quite complacent with being able to buy the things you want and go to the places that you want to all the time.
Yeah.
So that sort of almost builds up an ego, whether you probably want it to or not. You sort of inevitably start to think, I have everything at my fingertips. Like
Literally, yeah, and you're worth, more because you can afford this.
yeah,
Like,
exactly.
I think that's what we experience a lot with boomers, isn't it?
Yeah.
They just they believe that they're worth more than we are,
Yeah.
and they sort of just looking down their nose at us.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it's interesting to think because like, that in itself is going to create huge different mindsets. Like, what are we going to be like when we're 70 plus, are we going to start thinking about that? It's just that something happens to like, oh, when we were young, we were free, love, fun, having people, and now there's something another trend that's coming.
At what point does the switch flick over and now you're like just a grumpy person?
Because I feel like what happens throughout your life, there's going to be so many things that will sort of build up in the back of your head or ways in which you think things should be done through your experience and just time spent doing certain things. You'll develop ways in which things should be done. Some people will probably go down the path of sticking to their guns and get to a point where they know that that's worked for them for so long, and so they continue that mindset. I feel like we're a pretty open-minded generation for the most part, and that won't be so prevalent when we get to that age.
Well, you'd hope so.
But you still just don't know.
Can I have a wee puffy wuffy?
Yeah, absolutely. I do wonder what boomers were like at our age.
I know.
Like what was the mindset there? Surely when you're young, I guess unless it's sort of, I was going to say beaten into you, but drilled into you, I suppose, from your parents when you're younger about the way in which things should be done, because that's where I feel like that a lot of that comes from. It's like that's the way you're taught, and that's there's a lot more aggression in parenting back then.
Yeah, well, it is just different. It's just generational ideals, I suppose. Like, I mean, like the way that our parents were raised is definitely not how we would raise our children.
Yeah,
So I think I don't know if they're grumpy because they're angry at life and what happened to them. I think they've just worn down.
And I think a lot of
the rat
regrets
race
start to sink in when
exactly.
you're that age too. Like, what did I not do in my 20s? Like, what should I have done in my 30s? Like, I should have done this when I was younger.
Yep.
And it's easy to say like you shouldn't think like that, but if you dwell on your regrets, then you're living in the past, really. Like if you're not thinking forward to what you can be doing now as opposed to what you should have done, then you're going to end up just like that.
Yeah, I often get too existential and think like, why? Like, I don't know. I think I just get so anxious about wasting time. And now turning 25, it's like, it's just there it goes. I can watch it. It's so quick, and like every day is so fast, and it's like, oh man, did I actually do anything today that gave me joy, made me happy, and got me excited? Because like, how many times at our age do you get that like butterfly exciting feeling inside of you? And I was like, I've been telling people like, you've just got to try so hard to have such a good day. And it used to just come so easy, and that sounds very, very upsetting.
But that's the truth.
But it's the truth.
I relate to that completely.
You've got to try so hard, and I could definitely be trying harder because, I want to get that feeling.
Yeah.
I want to feel excited by everything, but I think that's what it is for sort of that middle-aged generation now, is that they've just become so complacent with this is just wake up, go to work, eat lunch, come home, make dinner, watch TV for a few hours, and then go to sleep and do it again. And it's just Groundhog Day, and I think that really wears people down. Definitely. And there's nothing that's making them excited and giddy. And I think that's super important to make sure that you're getting that.
Definitely.
Because the happiest people in life are definitely the ones that are actually actively trying to be that way.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think we'll see a lot of that with our generation growing up too. I think there's a movement for working towards a life where you don't have to work that 9 to 5 lifestyle. You live that 9 to 5 lifestyle, and you can make a living from the things that you make, and you can make a living from sitting in front of your computer all day at home. You know, the things are changing.
Or standing.
Yes, or standing. Yep.
Standing desks. Yeah. We should all be getting those. We should be standing right now. Why are we sitting down?
That would be good. That'd be funny. I would get so tired though. Like I get the idea of a standing desk, but I feel like all these. I'm obviously no physician, but I feel like the best posture is just movement. Like the best
sitting
thing you
is
can
the
do.
new smoking.
Yeah, I feel like you could sit as properly as you think is proper, but if you sit that way for 2 hours, you're going to have just as much pain as you were before. You know, it just doesn't happen that way. But anyway, what were we talking about?
Just lifestyle, man.
Yeah,
not being sedentary.
I feel like I was going to say I feel like I do worry about the way that I think about life sometimes, or like my sort of methodologies and ideas around how I should be treating the days that come, the weeks that come, the tasks that are at hand.
Yeah.
I've had this thing recently where instead of feeling obligated to do a task, if I don't feel like doing it at the time, unless it has to be done for whatever reason, like if there's a deadline or, you know, it's something to do with whatever, something important. Then I'll just go, well, I don't feel like doing that today. Yeah. I'm not going to do it. Why push myself into something that, like painting in particular, I might think that I have to, you know, I've only got, I say only, it's more than most in the working world, but I have 3 days off during the week.
Yeah.
So during those 3 days, I'm thinking, well, I should probably be in the studio painting. Mm-hmm. So I have this obligation to myself that I feel like I should do that task. And when I first got the studio, that was pretty much all I was doing. I'd work my 4 days, and then 3 days in a row, I'd be here, 9 to 5, painting, doing whatever in the studio. Yeah. Because I thought I owe it to myself to do that. Yeah. And, you know, I'm paying rent here, so I feel like if I don't go here for 1 week, then it's just a waste of my money.
Exactly. Yeah.
And recently I've been like, well, no, like if I get up one day and I did it the other day. I came here with the idea that I was going to paint, started painting, and I was like, I actually don't want to do this. So I stopped and left it. And I think that's important for me now to be doing that, to not force myself into something that I feel like I should be doing. But then I start to think, well, maybe I do need to be jam packing as much as I can into what I'm doing now at this age, you know, doing as much as I can, because like I'm starting to really think about what I should be doing while I'm in my 20s, how much other people do in their 20s and what I haven't even accomplished yet. Like I've barely left Dunedin, like my whole life.
Neither.
I feel like it's something that I need to do.
Yep.
Now, you know.
Yeah, same.
But I'm so now caught in this sort of cycle of, I guess I'm just comfortable where I am. Mm-hmm. This is sort of trailing off from my original thought. But yeah, point being is just I don't want to force myself to do something that I don't want to do. Yeah. And I worry if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Well, I don't know. There's an element of you do have to be pushing yourself to get something done. And if it, you know, your end goal is to paint 25 paintings, then of course you've got to push yourself to do it. But at the same time, there's no real reason to do something if you just really don't want to do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, 6 and 1, half a dozen.
Yeah, I don't know. It's tricky because we don't really have the answers. You know, it's all sort of speculation until you've experienced that, or that time has passed.
Don't believe anyone has the answers.
No,
everyone's in the same boat, and I try so hard not to think about what other people are doing in their 20s and what I should be doing. Like, what at 25, what should I have done by now that I haven't done? What have I missed out on? That's the worst one, because it's like, oh God, like I didn't do this. Like, am I less experienced than everyone else? And you're right, because I haven't left Dunedin yet, and I've never really felt the need to until this year. Basically, I've thought, oh man, like I've got to get out. I've got to do something else.
Maybe it's a 25 thing.
I think, yeah. Jeez. Yeah, I mean, I'd love to just like live somewhere else. I just think that would be awesome.
Yeah.
Because you do get stuck in a routine, and routines can be good, but routines can be shitty as well. It's just boring.
Yeah.
You know, especially in the middle of winter, it's like, oh, again, I have to get up. Like, my alarm's going off. And,
Yeah.
yeah, and that's why making the most of your time off, your 3 days off, I think that's important. But I wouldn't push yourself either, because you're just going to end up like hating it, or you're going to end up being like, I don't want to be here, this is shitty, and you're not going to enjoy what you're doing.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like that's where I am. Just not the feeling shitty part, but just like knowing that I should be doing as much as I can now, but not forcing myself into anything. And I think that's good for me now. I don't know whether it's something that's, how it's going to turn my art career, so to speak, if at all. But yeah, I don't know. I another thing I think about a lot is how much time I'm spending on that.
Yeah.
Creating something or doing something sort of for myself in my own capacity, to share with people. Should I be prioritizing that over spending time with friends and family? Mm-hmm. Because that's another thing I feel like is slipping away from me. I feel like there's, actually just like, because I'm such a homebody at the moment, pretty much all I do is spend my time here and at home with my flatmates. And even then I don't spend a lot of time with them. Yeah. I'm not sort of making plans to see people, and I feel like I should be starting to put more focus on that, because I really find the times that you're more gratified and happy, at least for me, is when I'm with people, but I never action that. So I don't know what that is. And trying to change that up is quite difficult, because there's so much anxiety that comes through interacting with people and just meeting up with people for coffee or whatever. It's a hard thing to try and do for yourself, because the beauty I've found in working on my own and for myself, not actually working like in terms of like getting paid or anything, but just doing what I want to be doing at my own time, that has been great in itself. But I've almost got too comfortable with it. Yeah. So in turn, it's sort of like flipped my whole social life sort of on its head, where now I just sort of was so caught up in the happiness that doing stuff for myself and being by myself brought me, that now I'm sort of lost touch with that other side. And I feel like I need to have more of that to feel more fulfilled, especially while I'm young,
Well, I think that it kind of ties into what we were doing in 2017. And I use my social time with my friends as motivation for me to go back home and do something.
Yeah, right.
Like, that's sort of the biggest thing for me, is seeing all my friends and hanging out with them and hearing about what they've done, or listening to their new music, or seeing their art and all that kind of stuff. That really motivates me to go and actually do it, because without being social like that, and without actually talking to people, I do like... Yeah, I just sort of shy away and don't do as much. So I think, for me, that's a really important part of my process, I suppose, is actually being with other people, being social, and sort of experiencing. I get a lot of pleasure out of other people doing cool stuff too, Like, I really, really enjoy when everyone else is sort of, they're really motivated and they're really happy to do, doing what they're doing. And it just makes me happy when, like, if I feel like I can motivate someone as well. Like, I'll often, talk to people about what they're doing and how they're feeling and all that kind of thing. And then sort of maybe I don't really like follow that up for myself. But
it's hard to take your own advice, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. And I hate being like, I don't know. I don't want to be like the wise guy and then sort of not really take
like
my
you
own
say before,
advice.
there's no one has all the answers. Like it's what's right for you is really only right for you a lot of the time. Like there's not a method to everyone's madness.
That's right.
There's not the answers for everyone else's happiness. Everyone works in different ways. What will make someone else happy might be really bad for someone else. Yeah. So I try to keep that mindset. I feel like I'm definitely a person that has a way of doing things and feel like a lot of those things, whether it's just daily tasks or just sort of big picture things, I feel like they're quote unquote the right way to do it. Yeah. but I know that's just for me. But
Yeah.
it's hard for me sometimes to not portray that or put that onto someone else,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
whether it's just like the way to wash a dish properly or something, you know, like
Yeah.
I feel like you got to really get in there and, you know, do it like this, otherwise you're not going to have the dishwash. Whereas, you know, someone, I feel like even in that small capacity, I don't have the answer. Like that's just my way of doing it. So I often will sort of immediately sort of start to tell someone how to do something and then sort of have to stop myself and go, well, maybe in this case it's not the way to do it. And it's hard to do sometimes.
That's what I've felt too. I mean, like, I'll sort of be preaching to someone and be like, oh, are they actually going to, you know, is this actually what they want to hear?
Yeah.
And that's also part of my own self-discovery too, is learning how other people do things and going, oh, I should try that.
Absolutely.
And that's also, like the imposter syndrome is like, I'm not doing this the right way, or like I've sort of taken to recently understanding that sort of in order to be the most creative, you got to sort of do things the wrong way. So I've been kind of trying to do that in small little pockets, like just in music. I mean, just sort of like using equipment the wrong way and seeing how that comes out. And and that's like quite exciting. But taking your own advice is very, very hard. Yeah. Do you, first question, I've got two questions.
Yeah.
First question, do you wash your plates before you put them in the dishwasher?
I'll give them a wee rinse, yeah.
A rinse?
Yeah. Well, honestly, in my case, my dishwasher is crap, so I kind of
You need
have to do it anyway, yeah.
Yeah. Because, like, I don't know. Different
a
strokes.
lot of people don't just chuck them
just
in
chuck
all
it straight
dirty.
in. That's horrifying to me.
I try and I'm so lazy. Like I know what I should be doing with that. I know that I should just put my dishes straight in the dishwasher or just wash them, but they just sit on the bench. Like I know what I should be doing, and I know that's the right way to do things. And if I was going to tell someone else how to do that thing, I would say, you just wash it then and there, and then you have no mess, and you don't have to worry about it.
Do you think
But
your flatmates go, oh, Kieran's left his plate on the bench
no
again?
doubt, but they do it too. You know, we're all playing a game here. You know, it's so funny how that works, and like it's so funny how like those chores that you have as an adult start to become like
Chores.
Yeah, well, you know, there's sort of one thing I found when I started flatting was that I got, you know, I almost preferred doing my own dishes on my own time than I did being told to do them at home. So through not having been told to do the dishes, I'd be like, oh yeah, this is.
Oh, if you get
something
told to
I
do
need to
something
do.
that you're about to do, you don't want to do it.
Oh, absolutely.
That's
not.
the rule. That's
Yeah.
written in the stone.
Exactly.
But like, how annoyed do you get at other people doing things that you would just do? You know, if you just be like, oh, I'm just going to leave my dishes on here. I'm not going to do it yet. But then you just get so grumpy at people that do the same thing.
It's so ironic, isn't it? Because again, we can't take our own advice. Like there's always I don't know what that is, where we see something else doing something and we know that's not right, but there's always an exception for yourself to go, you know, like you make dinner and then all the dishes stay there, like, oh, well, I'll just eat my dinner first and then I'll do the dishes later, and then you dinner go, oh, I'll do them in the morning. I'm going to do them, but you know,
and then there's that anxiety and you
and then the other person's
like,
thinking, oh, well, they've left the dishes here, they're lazy, and then it's like, well, no, I was actually going to do them, but you know, if you saw someone else walking away from doing their dinner, you'd be like, why aren't you doing your dishes? Like, you know, what's happening? Yeah. And this is all metaphorical if you want to think of it that way. Like you can relate that to.
No, I'm thinking strictly dishes. That's it, mate.
Yeah. But it's funny how our brains work, you know, with that sort of mentality. Like this is sort of the point I was trying to talk about before. Like I will be so compelled in that case to tell someone how to do something because I think it's the right way to do it. But why can't we take our own advice? Like, what is that? We have so much. There's anything that comes to ourselves and what we do, we just have this immediate like negative.
Yeah, I just think
aspect.
that I don't know. Maybe this isn't true, but I believe that there's some like self-deprecating, like wiring in our brain. You know, like we just I don't know. I just feel like bred to be negative all the time, which is like sad. It's so sad. And that, I guess that's just part of, you know, that's why you have to try so hard to be happy and live a good life.
Yeah.
I know when I'm making music, and if something's like really resonating, and I'm like, oh my God, this is awesome, and you get that like excitement that you just want to keep doing, and you can listen to it on a loop, like a 4-bar loop for like 20 minutes. And you're like, oh my God, that's so good.
Yeah.
Do you get that painting? Because I mean, it's just so far from my reality as, you know, working with color and that kind of thing. But do you feel that? Like, will you get on a wave and be like, holy shit, this painting's awesome, I'm not going to stop, and you just like flow state, get it done, it's like the best? Does it not really work like that?
I would say that's the case. I guess from dabbling in music myself, sort of that relationship, specifically what you're talking about, is quite different.
Yeah.
Because I feel like music does bring out more of sort of that personal emotion when you hear something that you made and you can loop it.
Yeah.
And, you know, that feeling, like that actually happened to me last night. First time in ages, sort of got into FL Studio again and just made a little loop. And I just sat there for a while just sort of listening to it and got quite happy with it, and sort of sat back and was just on my phone just listening to this this loop back and forth. And that feeling is quite different to what happens when I'm painting.
Yeah.
But with painting, often if I get to that spot where I sort of step back and go, this is looking really, really nice, I'm really happy with this, it's often not I'm going to keep going. It's often I'll stop and wonder whether that's sort of my, I guess, point where I'm going, is it finished now?
Yeah, you're checking in with yourself at that point. Yeah.
Yeah. There's definitely different paintings will bring out different feelings, and depends what's happening with them. There can be times when I'm just sort of painting until it's finished. There's not necessarily a really gratifying part of it, but I can look at something and go, this needs more to it. And then we'll often just sort of get to a point, okay, it's done.
Yeah.
To a point that I'm happy with, but I'm not always as excited about that particular painting. Whereas there'll be other ones where color schemes are working really well, or the figure's looking the way that I want it to, and it's sort of, I don't know, the only explanation for me being happy with something is it just looks good in my brain. That's the only factor that's coming to play.
It's turned out exactly the way you wanted it to.
Yeah.
Or is there an unknown when you're painting?
That's the thing for me. It is the unknown. I don't have a picture in my head when I start to paint. So I guess what you're asking sort of is that in itself, where it's all coming together sporadically. There's obviously a method to the application, but in terms of what is actually forming, that is sort of that similar excitement to what you're talking about with having that loop sort of feeling. And you're going,
and
okay,
I think that's like where creativity lies, is like that line between control and the unknown, you know, the known and the unknown. And that's, the ultimate expression, I think, is when it's sort of like half subconscious.
Yeah.
You know, like you're not really in charge of what you're doing. It's kind of just coming out.
Yeah.
Which is actually quite hard to do a lot of the time. You've really got to be in a certain spot to be able to achieve that. Yeah,
definitely. There's the process for me. Often, if I was to define, like, if I'm getting on a roll, or there's something that is starting to click and I am sort of continuously painting, that usually comes sort of towards the end of it. So often everything will build up on the canvas. There's color everywhere. It's completely covered, and there's a general image there.
Yeah.
And it's only when I start to, because a lot of what I'm doing is so expression based, quite literally, and just the movement and what I sort of, I guess, want it to feel like. Those movements that I'm happening, it's usually just I've got a cloth or a brush in my hand and I'm picking up paint and I'm doing a quick something to get some color on there, some real vivid, aggressive movements on there. And in those times I can feel like I'm on a roll. I can make one and go, ooh, that was good.
Yeah.
Another one, oh, that was good.
Yeah.
And then I'll do a couple more, and it might just that gives me that feeling. That's like, holy crap, I'm making all these movements and it's coming together better than I could imagine.
Yeah.
And then there's other times, the hardest part about my process and what I find with painting is that can be the most detrimental thing. So I can go, oh, that was good. Oh, that was good. Fuck. I fucked it up, you know?
You can paint over that, can't you? Surely.
Yes, I can.
And you just go, I don't know. I feel like you can just treat it as
it's circumstantial. Like yes, I can.
Jeez,
Double cough.
Robitussin, mate.
I can paint over it. That is the reality. But there are times when having to do that is a real pain in the ass because I might have a really thin, dried layer of paint somewhere. Like here, I might have, say, where the red is. That might be all the way that I want it. But if I do like a random stroke of black, a really heavy, aggressive stroke somewhere on top of that red, and it's not right, getting rid of that and leaving the red that was there before is near just an impossible task, and it'll look completely different. So there are times when it's like, oh, I've fucked it up. Like I'm going to have to make something new now, and that can just completely flip me.
Oh God,
on my head, I can just go, okay, well, I'm not enthused about painting anymore, and we'll leave it.
Throw the towel in.
Yeah, but I suppose it can happen with music too. But the beauty of a computer, if you're doing it that way, at least how I've been doing it, is you can Control Z something.
Exactly.
I can't do that with a painting.
And that is something too, when you sometimes you exhaust your creativity and you go, how can I do this differently? And it's like what I was talking about, using things the wrong way. And there's a bit of it's not a competition, but me and Damo are having a bit of a let's buy all of this outboard gear and try just do things differently than we've done it before. And he's purchased quite a lot of stuff, and I'm getting there too. But just to make music in a different way, I think is exciting, because you do get stuck in the box, quite literally inside the box in the computer, and
right.
There's nothing to there's no knobs, there's nothing to touch, there's nothing to manipulate. If you can physically manipulate sound or whatever, I think that's quite exciting.
Yeah.
So that's a wee journey that we're sort of going on, which is pretty fun. And I think, but that's what's so nice about painting, is it is entirely tangible and mechanical, and you can't really digitally recreate that or whatever.
Yeah.
I think
definitely the computer was something that I think stopped me from really trying to express something with music, because it was all reliant on a certain way to do something. If you wanted to create an automation, you had to know where to go in your DAW to do that thing. And there was so many limitations with me with this big program, for someone that doesn't know how to play any instruments or sing. All I was doing was just beat making, so everything is done on the computer for me. So everything was reliant on a way in which to do something, and I wasn't able to conquer that. And so I think that's why I really flourished with painting, was because it was all physical, mechanical, in front of your eyes, movements and patterns and things that I have complete control of in a movement that's natural to me,
Yeah. And then there is...
But there's that aspect to music too, of course.
Yeah. And I think working on a computer, and this is obviously where the world is right now and where it's going to continue to go, is just technology. There's endless availability of storage and space and things to manipulate digitally, but also you are still limited by the fact that you can't just make a weird little tweak somewhere, or that just sort of the unique joy and the flaws of an actual a physical piece of hardware or something like that. Well, I mean, we're still talking music, but like a guitar pedal or whatever, inside the computer, sure, you can make it sound way wackier and weirder and just completely send it up the wazoo. But also, you're just limited by that sound and sort of that, less human element to it, I think. So, yeah, that's kind of where the journey is heading, is to just make it more analog, I suppose.
Yeah. There's still a lot of structure in and around music as well. I still can't really wrap my head around the fact that there are keys and chords and notes and everything. Yeah. That there's points on a guitar at which one will play a certain note and another place will play something else.
Yeah.
But there is something in between, but there's also not.
That's
You
why
know,
you play
like
the
the-
drums, mate. You don't have to worry
Yeah,
about that.
yeah, exactly. I
just
still
hitting things.
I still can't come to grips with it. Like, it's so crazy how it has been sort of broken down into this formula.
Yeah.
Whereas sound itself is really like there's everything in between, but we're still.
Are we really going to get into physics now?
I mean,
Maths and physics.
I think you're the best person to talk about this with.
Yeah.
Not
That's
not
actually,
literally.
no, that's
that
not the
but-
best person, no,
But you know, you've
in
got a
this
good
moment,
grasp on it.
in this room, I think
I guess we could like talk specifically more about how that affects something creatively and sort of the organics, like we're talking about with how like a paint stroke can be. Two paint strokes are never the same, but two A chords could be the same. You know,
True. Well,
like
that's
they
the thing.
hit this, they register sort of the same.
in a computer that's like entirely accurate every time.
Yeah,
Everything is correct,
which is crazy.
which is great because I love that.
Mm.
If it's right, it's right. If it's wrong, it's wrong. And that's awesome. That's like, I need that. But maybe for me, being more creative involves having a little bit of in between, grey area, I think is good. But that's what creativity is grey area. Like, there is no objectivity to what you're doing.
Sure.
And I think we've just found about 5 different ways to say that one thing.
Yeah. We have. It's funny because we always cycle back to that point though. Like I love when
Yeah.
you have a big discussion about something like this, and then it all sort of boils down to one sentence, and
Yeah,
it always
literally,
is usually the same thing. Oh, fuck it, we'll do what we want.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's,
Well, if we want to talk about something objective, I'll tell you that my journey into coding has been a struggle and also something quite fun.
yeah, right.
And I think it's something that a lot of people should do. It's awesome. It's great.
I don't know if what I've really done in that sphere counts, but it's sort of laughable. But when I was on Tumblr,
Yes.
my experience with, I mean, I don't really know even what you define coding as, but all I think of when we talk about this and how I can sort of start to feel like I'm understanding what you're saying in this conversation is that I had to manipulate the HTML of my blog to get things the way that I'm looking. So I'm familiar with the sort of general layout of things.
Yeah.
But we were talking before we started this about how your sort of transition into this world of website development
Yeah.
sort of is similar to how you look at music and like you like the aspect of having a way in which to do things and you can get that, you can complete that and that's sort of that satisfaction. So this is obviously something that's been brought out of you again with this coding, correct?
Well, I mean, it's taken me until like this year to be able to articulate to myself what I need and what, and like that sort of structure. Like, I mean, it has taken me a while to figure that out because for me, just the objectivity of it is just like satisfying, and it's just building something in the computer. Because like, I mean, I like building, I like creating like little woodwork things as well, and so that's just the same thing for me in the computer. I guess it's just it's a personality of mine, and I didn't even realize that until this year.
It's so cool that when you find those things out about yourself, and that's why it's so important to try new things.
But
because
it's always been a thing. Like, why am I like this? Why am I not like this person?
Right.
Why? And it's not a bad thing. It's just like, why? Oftentimes, it's why do I need this done a particular way, or why do I care so much about that? Or me just wishing that I like was a little bit more careless, or just more free, or just like, I don't know. Is that anxiety? I don't know.
I mean, some would consider it that. I feel like anxiety as a whole is split into a lot of different narratives that people will talk about in different ways, whether it's small scale stuff, big scale stuff, but that's, I would say so.
Yeah.
But, this is obviously something that fits in your field, I suppose. This is something that brings out an aspect of you that you can just relate sort of things that you've already known about yourself into this other thing, and it just makes sense. And obviously, it's a gratifying thing for you to do. It's translatable.
Yeah, so I'm building websites now. That's it. It's weird for me to say that because, I think well, the same with all of us. We're just like constantly discovering something about ourselves or trying to figure it out, and that's what being young is figuring out yourself and what you love and what you don't love and how you work. I think is really important as well, and that's something that I'm still learning. But yeah, like now it's at a point where it's like, okay, I've kind of figured it out, and it's like really satisfying. And often, like, people figure it out like at school or at university or when they're traveling or anything like that, or sometimes they don't figure it out at all, and that's okay. But like, yeah, it's like a milestone almost.
Yeah. I feel like, do you think that you're going to end up in a place where you're doing what you've found is the thing that you do and you do well, like for a long period of time? Or do you think you're going to venture into different sort of avenues of life as you get older, like at least in what you can perceive your own life to turn out like?
I don't know.
Like, do you think this is now an avenue? I feel like with you, music and that is always going to be something that you have.
It's always just going to be there, I think. And like, I really struggle to think about the future. I just have no idea what's going to happen at all. I can't even think a year into the future. I just kind of go with it, really. I think, and that's kind of nice. Like, I'm not that worried about the future at all. I'm worried about what I'm doing at any given moment, but not like tomorrow.
Yeah,
you know. So I've got no idea what I'm going to do. At the moment, this is like fun. This is great.
Yeah.
But like, who can really predict what's going to happen? Like with this pandemic as well, it's just kind of throwing a spanner in the works.
Definitely.
You know, and like, something like that's probably going to happen again. Well, not something like that, but you know, things in life just keep throwing you curveballs. It's not just a straight walk in the park.
This is probably like this will be something that opens up something else down the line. Like, I don't think we're out in the clear once this passes, you know, which is a shame. But yeah, like, people have had to put their life on hold for most part through this, which is a shame, because some people do have sort of a plan as to what they're going to be doing at certain times of their lives. And I'm very much like you in that I don't really like to think too much about the future. I sort of have this thing that I feel like there's definitely a term for this, but I have this saying that I constantly will tell myself in my head that sort of like gets me past any anxieties of things, which is, well, it won't matter when I'm rich and famous. I always say that to myself, and it's kind of just ironic now, and I don't genuinely believe that is going to be the truth, because you know, I'm not a super hard worker. You know, what is it that's going to make me rich and famous? But that little sentiment is enough to sort of make me laugh at myself and stop to worry about things, because I can put anyway. Like, I'm like constantly saying, like, am I going to be able to buy a house at this age or whatever? And I'll go, oh, it won't matter, because when I'm rich and famous, I'll be able to buy a house. And I don't know if that's detrimental to my thinking, but it's enough to make me just stop worrying about that thing for now. And so it's sort of been, again, I think it's sort of just a funny little thing to have that just keeps me sort of on the straight and narrow. But you know, I do think that it's important more than anything to just focus in on what you're doing now. I've been sort of brought up with the mentality that, you know, this isn't a negative thing, but just that, you know, there should be ways in which to do things in certain points of your life that you should get your driver's license now when you're this age, because you're going to need that for when you get a job, and you're going to have to get a job as soon as you can, because then you're going to pay the bills for when you go flatting, and then when you go flatting, you're going to find that you want a house, you know. So it's like, I'm trying to, I have that in me, that is ingrained in me, to have that thought process. Okay, I need to be prepared for when this happens. But there's more of me is saying, just do what you like doing now. Exactly. And
there's a sensible option, and then there's just like a boring option. You know, like, there is an element that you sort of you do have to subscribe to that in a way. At some point, you've got to, I guess, you've got to make money. That's just the world we live in. You have to do that. You have to get a job. You have to be able to pay these things, and life costs money. And that's what it's about. But at what point do you go, I don't want to do this anymore? I don't want to live like this. I want to do something else. Like, but like, what opportunities do you give yourself to do that? Like, what are you going to do?
You know,
It's hard, man.
I think a lot of us being our generation, is sort of relying for, this is not to speak for anyone, but I just sort of feel like, at least for me, I really narrowed that down. That I feel like that, you know, I'm sort of living by thinking that something's just going to fall into my lap at some point.
Yeah, sometimes it just does.
Sometimes it will. For some people, it will. There might become a point in your life where you come into a large amount of money through, you know,
Lotto,
bereavement, lotto, whatever.
Big Wednesday.
Yeah, exactly.
I
mean, someone wins that eventually, right? You know, it's possible.
Yeah.
But, you know, shouldn't be living on that thought. But, you know, I'm exactly like what you're saying. You know, I love to be creative as I can and live as frugally as I can, and you know, sort of have this pretty little lifestyle, you know, that I'm living in my 20s. But I'm constantly thinking, well, how can I be a full-time artist and still pay my bills? How can I not have this job that I'm in at the moment and get by and feed myself? You know, like it never quite works. I'm never at a point where I'm like, fuck it all, I'm moving to Wellington, whatever.
Right, Wellington, yeah, sure.
Los Angeles. And just, you know, and forgetting it all and starting a new life and crashing on my mate's couch while I paint and, you know, live, you know, that's the dream, but it's not feasible. So I'm constantly pulled back down.
But does that sound fun to you?
Well, this is an interesting point
just
because
not knowing that.
Yeah, I've had so many people say to me, oh, you need to move here, you need to move this, you need to see this, rah, rah, rah. And I'm always going, yeah, probably. I probably would be fantastic. I know it would be great. I would definitely enjoy it. But, you know, do I want to do that right now? I feel like I'm pretty happy where I am, you know? But then that being said, it's like you don't always know what's on the other side.
No, you
The
don't.
grass is sometimes greener. And
Sometimes.
yeah. And it's like, what are you... Am I wasting my time making these decisions about where I need to be and what I'm doing, or am I okay in thinking that what I'm doing now is enough?
Yeah.
You know?
And I think your little cue to yourself about, you know, this isn't going to matter when I'm rich and famous.
Yeah.
To me, it's this fear, like ultimate fear that I'm just going to die. And it's like, oh God, I'm going to die.
Yeah.
And I don't know when that's going to be.
Yeah, that's
but like you have
thing.
to keep telling yourself, well, I have to keep telling myself that I think this is, maybe I've just done it to myself, but it's like, why are you lying in bed right now doing nothing?
Yeah.
What if you died tomorrow? Like, is this going to be your last day on earth just being a bum?
Yeah.
Like, open the curtains, get outside, get up early, you know?
Absolutely.
Go walk to the cafe, you know?
Yep.
There's one right down the street.
Yep.
Go and get one. And
it's the little things like that
Yeah.
that just make your day feel so much better.
Oh, yeah. And like, we were just talking about that before, like getting up early, the sun's coming through the window, and you've had a coffee, and it's like, wow, this is like...
Day begin.
Yeah. And like, it's what's satisfying about working a 9 to 5 is that you are up and productive all the time. Like you're subscribing to that, getting up early and having a coffee and doing all that stuff. But it's also like you're kind of going and doing something you don't really want to do.
Yeah.
So it's about subscribing to that time allocation in the weekend as well. I think that's something that a lot of people don't do, and I definitely don't do, which I should. Is actually, just like sort of... Yeah, it all boils down to actually just like making the effort.
Yeah.
And you get too lazy, and it's like,
I've been using that as a tool for sort of getting through my work, is thinking about the fact that this is a chance for me to get up early and do what I want to be doing on my own time. And something that I realized, I'm currently on 2 weeks on a 2 weeks holiday at the moment, and this time has really sort of shown me that I can't like implement that for myself. You know, setting an alarm for every day of the week because I want to get up early doesn't work 5 days of the week. You know, it's some days, easy up, I'm good to go, and then other days, I don't actually have to do anything today, so I'm going to sleep another hour, and that just like builds up and builds up.
That's that discovery of figuring out how you work more so than what you want to do.
Yeah,
I think that's equally as important. But yeah, you're right. Like, it's just impossible to get out of bed early, you know, all the time. and you think, and you get up and you're like, actually, what am I actually going to do? Because like you can. I think just going outside is important.
Definitely.
In the morning.
Yeah. That's the one. Another thing that I found about the place I'm living at the moment is I don't really have that opportunity. Like, of course I do. I can leave the house anytime I want, but I can't just sit on the deck or go out the back door and sit on the balcony.
That's what's awesome about you having a separate studio space is you can leave.
Yeah.
Well, like you have to go outside and walk through this city.
Yeah.
To get here, and you're not just sort of like staying in your bedroom or just moving into the lounge or whatever. You actually have to kind of interact with the world a little bit, which is super important.
Definitely. Yeah. There's definitely beauty in that, and something that I have found has been really good in just my general mental health is having the place to get up and go to. I think that's the biggest driving factor for getting up early on any given day is knowing that you're going to go somewhere, even if it's just going for a walk. Like, right, I'm going to get up and go for a walk today. That's super hard in itself, but at least you've got somewhere to go. You're not just getting up early for the sake of being up, because there's been a couple of mornings in this break that I've just got up early and haven't actually done anything at all. Just sit in front of my computer all day and then waste that time doing nothing anyway that I could have just been sleeping. And so it's sort of a vicious cycle. I think, at least for me, laziness, it just always creeps back in some way or another.
I know. And like, what is wasting time really? Because you're just like spending your time doing something comfortable. And like, is it really a waste of time? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, do
you have to be productive all the time? That's the thing, and we all kick ourselves for not being productive all the time. Like,
the thing is, like, you can have someone that is super productive 6-7 days a week, doing what they do, and I guess I'm talking specifically here about a creative person, someone that makes art in some way, shape, or form. That person can be working harder than anyone and make so much work and, post something every day on social media, whatever it is that they do that they consider to be productive, and do that for the rest of their life. Someone else could be productive 1 or 2 days of the week, even just like an hour a day, and their work could be picked up by someone that really enjoys that, and their career can go off like that. There's no answer to that either. I think, like, and that's why I'm sort of living by this rule of, if I don't feel like doing it, don't do it, because whatever opportunity that's going to come my way, if any at all, will just be through my approach and my attitude towards what I do, if that makes sense. I do understand the mentality of, like, if you want something, you have to work hard to achieve it. But I find that I don't work hard, because I like spending some of my time relaxing, because at least now. But
that's like, you can still do that, but I think it's at the point where if you're like, I should be doing something else, or like you're genuinely putting something off, that's the waste of time. I think is procrastination.
Definitely. Yeah. When you have tasks at hand, the best way to relieve your anxiety about a task is to complete the task.
Exactly.
And that can be the hardest thing. I think, like, I find once I start doing something, it's fine. Whatever it is, whether it's a chore or something that I want to do, once I'm in it, I'm just constantly reminded about why I do this thing. The hardest part is just starting that thing.
Exactly.
Whether it's doing the dishes or starting a painting, just the thought of, I have to do this.
Why is it
just
so
getting
hard?
from that point to starting, like, that is the hardest part out of anything. Like, the task is never really that difficult. You just have to get past your anxieties and your own head telling you, oh, you can put it off, or there's something more important to be done at the time. There's been days I've had 3 or 4 things that I need to get done on that day, and I just don't do any of it.
Yeah.
And I feel great those days, But then the next day, it trickles on, Those worries stay with you, and it builds up and builds up. Yeah. Who has the answers?
Mate, I don't have any answers.
No one does. Yeah, I don't know. I wish there was some sort of method to it, but I think the best thing that anyone could do would just be to make up their own rules, like take your own advice, with still being open-minded, still allowing others to influence what you do, but make up the rules for yourself. And sometimes the best thing that you can do is just sort of dwell in something that's not working for a wee bit,
Yep.
just to really like encompass it and create closure around it, rather than
Yep.
sort of leaving something incomplete or even like not even started, just something that's weighing on your mind. Like if you can, yeah, do you get what I'm saying?
I do.
I'm sort of just
understand a lot.
spilling now. Yeah,
This is definitely a closing statement.
yeah, I think so too. I think so
Because
too.
the idea of completing something, completing a task, you know, I think that is the most important part of the process.
Absolutely.
Get it out.
Yep.
Ship it.
Be done with it.
Yep.
Move on.
Send it away.
Brilliant.
Put it in the post box. The post box?
The mailbag?
The mailbag.
The mailbox. Oh dear.
Can you put things in your letterbox and people pick it up? Like, you can't do that, can you? Like, if you wanted to send something, that's like a reverse mailbox, isn't it?
Yeah.
A reverse letterbox.
No, I don't think you can do that. But like, no, you can't.
I think you should.
That's always
that's the
it's
new
always where it
idea.
ends up. Yeah.
Jeez.
Is that a metaphor?
No. Like, if I want to send a letter to someone, I put it in my mailbox.
You could have an inbox
then
and an outbox at your house.
And yeah, it's like email.
Yeah.
Why is there not a physical like
That's
outbox?
actually a really good idea.
I don't
that
think
makes
I
so
don't.
much sense.
It's a good idea, but like,
Well, it makes sense because the posties are going to be going back to the post shop anyway.
and then you don't have to take it anywhere. You just put it in your outbox.
But I guess you don't have the sense of emptying the accomplishment of emptying the bag of that day. You know, you end up with the same bag if you're picking up mail. If you got to
Who the
amount that you
mailman?
need to, yeah. If you got to drop all those off on a day, you don't end up with an empty bag. You end up with more stuff.
No, but you empty the bag, and then the next morning you pick up more from the letterboxes.
Oh, it's
or
a
in the
different
outboxes.
different daily task. I
Yeah.
see.
So every morning the mailman comes and picks up your letters out of your outbox
Yeah,
and takes it to people's inbox.
that's an endless cycle.
See,
I
right? And then
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then that all gets finished, and then they finish, and then the next day it starts again.
We should buy the New Zealand Post. That's where we
We
get
should
rich and
buy New
famous.
Zealand Post.
Yeah.
I don't
Obviously
think
know
that's
what we're talking about. Change the game up.
What would you call it? Would you keep it New Zealand Post?
I mean, it makes sense, right? The good NZ Post. The better NZ
Yeah.
Post. No
Outboxes.
Yeah. Brilliant. I love it. All right, Nick,
Excellent idea.
thanks for being here, man. This
Thanks,
is really
Kieran.
fun.
It was fun.
I love to see your insights on things. You've got quite a, yeah, I don't know how to break you down, but I like the way you think, and I really appreciate that you can evaluate things about yourself, that
Yeah.
what works, and finding avenues that works for you and your way of living. I think it's
But
fascinating.
you can also be too self-aware.
Yes, we're opening up another wormhole.
Yeah, let's stop.
We'll leave it at that.
Stop.
All right. Thanks again.
Okay, mate.
Appreciate it, man.
Cheers, mate.
Bye, everyone.
Home Audio Entertainment.
9016 Radio.
The show for artists of all kinds.
Sit down, relax, enjoy the music.